Close your eyes. Now think about the color red. Not just any red. The vivid crimson of a perfect rose or the deep scarlet of a sunset. You can see it, can't you? But what exactly are you seeing? There's no light hitting your retina, no wavelengths being processed. And yet, there it is, a raw, ineffable experience that exists only in your mind. This is consciousness, and science has no idea how to explain it. Every second of your life, you're experiencing something that shouldn't exist according to our understanding of the physical world. The taste of coffee, the pain of heartbreak, the peculiar nostalgia of an old song. These experiences are real to you, but invisible to science. And this might be the most profound mystery we've ever encountered. Before we continue, if you enjoy unraveling hidden truths and uncovering the forces that shape our reality, make sure to click that subscribe button. Your support allows us to continue bringing you the insights that truly challenge how we think. Now, let's go deeper. In 1995, philosopher David Chalmers introduced what he called the hard problem of consciousness. A problem so fundamental yet so elusive that it threatens to undermine our entire scientific worldview. The question is deceptively simple. Why does physical processing in our brains give rise to subjective experience at all? Think about it this way. We understand, at least in principle, how the brain processes information. Neurons fire, chemicals are exchanged, electrical signals race along neural pathways. We can map this activity with increasingly sophisticated technology. We can explain how your visual cortex processes light, how your auditory cortex processes sound, how memories form and decisions are made. This is what Chalmers calls the easy problems of consciousness. But here's where science hits a wall. None of these explanations, no matter how detailed, can tell us why these physical processes are accompanied by subjective experience. Why does neural firing in your visual cortex produce the vivid, first-person experience of seeing color rather than just processing information about wavelengths? Why is there something it is like to be you? This isn't just another scientific puzzle waiting to be solved. It's a conceptual chasm that our current scientific frameworks simply cannot bridge. And to understand why, we need to examine the foundations of modern science itself. Modern science emerged from the Enlightenment with a powerful premise. The physical world operates according to laws that can be discovered, measured, and explained without reference to subjective experience. This methodological approach, excluding consciousness from scientific explanations, has been spectacularly successful in helping us understand everything from atoms to galaxies. But this success came at a price. By methodologically ignoring consciousness, science inadvertently created a worldview where consciousness becomes impossible to explain. In the words of philosopher Thomas Nagel, we've developed a view of reality where the most important phenomena of all, the appearance of consciousness itself, cannot be accounted for. Consider a neuroscientist studying your brain while you look at a red rose. They can track every neural pathway, measure every chemical exchange, map the entire process of visual perception from retina to recognition. They can explain why you recognize it as a rose, why you categorize it as red, even predict with remarkable accuracy what you might think or do next. But ask them to explain why you have a subjective experience of redness, why there's something it's like to see red, and they'll hit a wall. The tools of neuroscience can describe the physical correlates of consciousness, but they cannot explain why these correlates are accompanied by experience. This isn't just a limitation of our current technology or knowledge. It's a limitation of the very framework we use to understand the physical world. Physical explanations deal with structure, function, and causation, the what and how of reality. But consciousness is about something else entirely, the what it's like aspect of reality. As philosopher Joseph Levine pointed out, there's an explanatory gap between physical processes and subjective experience. No matter how detailed our explanation of the brain becomes, we always face the same question. Why should any physical process, no matter how complex, give rise to subjective experience at all? Let's make this concrete. Imagine an advanced alien civilization studying humans. These aliens have mastered physics, chemistry, and biology. They can create perfect simulations of human brains and predict with 100% accuracy how a human will behave in any situation. But if these aliens lack consciousness themselves, they would have no way of understanding what it's like to be human. They could master the physics of light and the biology of the eye, but never grasped what it's like to see colors. The hard problem forces us to confront an unsettling possibility. Physical science, as currently conceived, might be fundamentally incomplete. Not just missing a few pieces of the puzzle, but built on foundations that make certain aspects of reality, perhaps the most important aspects, impossible to capture. This realization has led to some radical proposals. David Chalmers himself has suggested that consciousness might be fundamental to reality. Not something that emerges from physical processes, but a basic feature of the universe, like space, time, or matter. This perspective, known as panpsychism, suggests that consciousness might be present, in some form, throughout the physical world. Others, like neuroscientist Christoph Koch, have proposed integrated information theory, suggesting that consciousness arises from specific patterns of information integration in complex systems. The more integrated information a system contains, the more conscious it is. But these theories, fascinating as they are, don't solve the hard problem, they reframe it. They don't explain how physical processes give rise to consciousness. They suggest that consciousness was there all along, woven into the fabric of reality. The implications are profound. If consciousness is fundamental, then the scientific revolution that began with Galileo and Newton, which deliberately excluded subjective experience from its explanations, gave us an incomplete picture of reality. We've been building our understanding of the universe while ignoring one of its most basic features. What makes this especially unsettling is that consciousness is not some distant, abstract phenomenon. It's the most immediate reality we know. Everything you've ever experienced, every thought, feeling, perception, or memory, exists within the realm of consciousness. It is the one thing you cannot doubt. As René Descartes recognized centuries ago, you can doubt the existence of the external world, but you cannot doubt that you are conscious, that you are experiencing something. And yet, this most certain of realities remains the most mysterious. Some scientists and philosophers try to sidestep the hard problem by denying its existence. They argue that once we fully understand the brain, the mystery of consciousness will dissolve. Consciousness, they suggest, is just what the brain does, and our sense that there's something more to explain is an illusion. But this approach faces a fundamental problem. It cannot explain why certain physical processes are associated with consciousness while others are not. Why does neural activity in your visual cortex produce visual experiences, while equally complex processes in your liver do not produce liver experiences? Why is there something it is like to be you, but not something it is like to be your smartphone, despite its complex information processing? Others suggest that consciousness might be explained by quantum mechanics, perhaps quantum processes in the brain, as proposed by physicist Roger Penrose and anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff, create the conditions for consciousness to arise. But even if quantum processes play a role in brain function, we still face the same conceptual problem. Why should any physical process, quantum or classical, give rise to subjective experience? The hard problem has led some thinkers to even more radical conclusions. Perhaps consciousness and physical reality are two aspects of the same underlying reality, a view known as dual-aspect monism. Or perhaps physical reality is itself a constructive consciousness, a perspective that echoes ancient philosophical traditions from both East and West. What makes the hard problem particularly vexing is that it seems to resist scientific investigation by its very nature. Science deals with objective, third-person data, things that can be observed, measured, and shared. But consciousness is inherently subjective, first-person, and private. You can never directly observe my consciousness, nor I yours. We can communicate about our experiences, but we cannot share them directly. This methodological challenge has profound implications for how we approach the study of consciousness. It suggests that the usual scientific method, which relies on objective observation, might be fundamentally limited when it comes to understanding the nature of subjective experience. Some philosophers, like David Chalmers, have argued that we need to expand our conception of science to include first-person data, reports of subjective experience alongside third-person observations. Others, like Thomas Nagel, suggest that we might need an entirely new kind of understanding, one that bridges the gap between subjective and objective perspectives. So where does this leave us? Are we forever trapped on one side of an unbridgeable explanatory gap? Unable to understand the relationship between consciousness and the physical world? Perhaps. But the history of science is full of conceptual revolutions that seemed impossible before they occurred. For centuries, it seemed obvious that the Earth was stationary. For millennia, it seemed clear that space and time were absolute. Our intuitions about reality have been overturned before, and they may be overturned again. The hard problem of consciousness might require just such a revolution, a fundamental rethinking of the nature of reality itself. Not just a new theory within our existing framework, but a new framework altogether. This might sound like an impossible task, but consider the words of philosopher Thomas Kuhn. The decision to reject one paradigm is always simultaneously the decision to accept another. The hard problem might be unsolvable within our current paradigm, but that doesn't mean it's unsolvable in principle. What would such a paradigm shift look like? Perhaps we need to move beyond the strict division between subjective and objective, between mind and matter. Perhaps we need to recognize consciousness not as a strange anomaly in a physical universe, but as a fundamental aspect of reality that our current scientific frameworks are ill-equipped to capture. This is not to suggest that we should abandon physical science or embrace mysticism. Rather, it's to recognize that our understanding of reality is still evolving, and that the greatest mysteries might require us to question our most basic assumptions. The hard problem of consciousness reminds us of the limits of human understanding. It humbles us by revealing how much remains unexplained, even in the realm of our own experience. But it also invites us to push those limits, to explore new ways of thinking about the relationship between mind and world. So, are we facing the final frontier of science, a problem that cannot be solved? Or are we standing at the threshold of the next great revolution in our understanding of reality? The answer might depend on our willingness to question not just what we know, but how we know it. Perhaps the hard problem isn't a dead end, but a doorway, one that leads to a deeper, richer understanding of consciousness and its place in the universe. If this exploration of consciousness and the limits of scientific understanding has made you think, challenged your assumptions, and sparked a deeper curiosity about the nature of mind and reality, then make sure to subscribe. Don't forget to hit the like button and share this video with those who need to confront this profound mystery. Because the greatest questions aren't just academic puzzles, they're invitations to reconsider everything we thought we knew about ourselves and our place in the cosmos.